Not every miniature gets a place of honor on the battlefield. Some are abandoned, caked in glue, buried in bins, or left to gather dust. But here at the Grimdark Gallery Foster Program, we believe every model deserves a second chance. Join me as we rescue, restore, and repaint these lost models, giving them a new home and a paint job they deserve. My name's Elliot. Welcome to the Grimdark Gallery. Foster Program number 1. So these are World Eaters from the second edition. They're made of plastic. They're super old, and I scored them on an eBay auction for about 15 bucks. These models came in looking pretty good. The paint job on these guys isn't too bad. I like what the original painter was going for. And one of the arms did break off in the shipping process, so we'll have to get that glued back on. But overall, these guys look pretty good. So the first thing we're going to have to do here is get these guys on some new bases, because these old second edition bases are not tournament legal and they're too small. So we need to get them on new, beautiful 32mm bases. To get rid of old bases, you can just cut them off like so. I have another way of removing models from bases using mineral spirits. Dissolve the plastic cement glue to remove models from your bases. But these ones have this weird little notch on the bottom, so that didn't work. And before we get them on the new bases, we're gonna have to strip the paint. I give you the poor man's strip. This is for people without an ultrasonic cleaner. It's a very cheap and easy way to strip the paint. Step 1, 24-hour soak in 99% isopropyl alcohol, and let them soak for a day. After they've soaked for a day, just go ahead and make sure you're wearing gloves. Make sure you're wearing a mask, because you don't want to breathe all this alcohol in. And go ahead and get to scrubbing on these guys. Now, you can use a toothbrush. I would be careful with a metal brush, but old toothbrush works fine. Go ahead and get all the paint stripped off. I'm going to go ahead and give these guys a whole nother day in the alcohol to get the remaining paint off. As you can see, the alcohol is very clearly stripping the paint off. It's turned a red color. So after a whole nother day of isopropyl and another scrub, I'm going to come in with Simple Green. Now, this is the concentrate version, so I'll have to dilute it with a little bit of water. But go ahead and let these soak in Simple Green for a day. This is a all-purpose household cleaner, and I think it does a really good job of getting the paint off, especially the primer, which can be a little bit harder on some of the models. So if you have the time, 2 days in the alcohol, 2 days in the Simple Green, and it should get the paint right off the thing. After a day in the Simple Green, I'm going to go ahead and give them a scrub. It's going to make a lot of bubbles, and those bubbles are going to help get the primer off. After the second day in Simple Green, go ahead and give them a soak. Now, I've been working at getting the paint off of one of these guys. This is the primer. What you're seeing here is really old caked on primer that is not coming off these models. I really need to invest in an ultrasonic cleaner if I'm going to continue to do these Foster Program episodes. After all that's stripped off, go ahead and drill out the gun holes. Now it's time to get them on some new 32mm bases. Go ahead and just dab a little bit of super glue on there and place them on the bases. After getting them on the new bases with some super glue, let me show you a very quick and easy way to get great looking bases. When you're doing the bases, I think it's best to always start from biggest to smallest. Here I have some bigger looking rocks that are actually made out of cork, and I have some plastic skulls. I'm going to glue all these onto the base first. After that's done, go ahead and put some wood glue and smear it all around the base. After bigger rocks and skulls and bigger items, I like to come in with some coarse sand and then fine sand. Go ahead and let that completely dry, and I like to lock it in with some super fine super glue. Everybody uses this one. It's called Star Bond. Super thin, fast glue, my friend. After your bases are completely dry, I like to come in with some texture paint, watered down. Give that a mix. Want to make sure it's nice and thin, and go ahead and spread that all around the base. And after that dries fully, we're going to come in with some black primer, and this is what we're left with. These guys are ready to paint. I'm going to start out by painting them with an airbrush. My old lady got me a new airbrush for Christmas, and this is the Evolution CR Plus. Go ahead and add a little airbrush thinner in there, airbrush flow improver, just a couple drops of that, and now some paint. We're going to start out with some Khornate by Games Workshop. This is about the consistency that you're looking for right here. It's kind of like skim milk. After this is all mixed up, this is about what you want to see on your hand here. And we want to do 2 to 3 thin coats of this to completely cover the model. You can go ahead and blast it with a hairdryer on medium heat to accelerate the drying process. Next up, we'll come in with a zenithal, which is a highlight from above with some mephiston red, and that will brighten the higher areas, giving the illusion of light. So on my models, one thing I like to do is go in the first step using black. Basically, I'm going to paint black all of the areas that should be black and all of the areas that should be silver. This is because silver metallic paint covers over black the easiest, and I find that it gives great shadows if you do miss a spot here and there. It's kind of a tedious process sometimes, but every time I do it, I always think it's worth it in the end. After the black bits, we'll come in with some Bethalzar gold and hit all of the gold trim on the Chaos Marine here. After the gold trim, this is what we got so far. Next up, I'm going to come in with some dark aluminum by Vallejo, and you can see here how well the metallics apply over black. These Vallejo metallics work really well at covering anyway, but this ensures that we only need 1 coat of paint. I had this old English teacher in high school, and she was a mean old nasty bitch. But she did teach me one thing that has stuck with me to this day, and it was about how to write a paper. Now what she said was, to improve your papers, never use the same word twice. And at first I thought it was kind of dumb, but I used that technique when writing papers, and my papers were a lot better. Now, in the spirit of that old bitch, we can go ahead and use this principle to apply different colors on the model even though they're very similar. For example, I am using a dark aluminum Vallejo here to cover a few bits that I want to be silver, and I'm going to come in with some gunmetal gray from Vallejo on a few different bits that I also want to be silver. This is called color variation, and it will help your models from looking flat. We're also going to use this same exact principle with the bone colors. I'm going to come in with some Army Painter Tomb King Tan over some of the skull bits on the shoulder pad as well as the chain sword. But the skulls on the base, I'm going to come in with some Morghast Bone. So these are both bone colors, but they look slightly different. Alright, next up we're going to come in and paint the eyes. I'm going to come in with some white paint. And if you mess up here, it's okay. You can use Khornate mephiston red to cover up any mistakes that you make on painting these guys. After that's dry, I'm going to use a 50-50 mix of Warp Lightning and Lamian Medium and apply that right over the white of the eyes. And after that's dry, I'll do the same thing with Striking Scorpion to give nice, bright green eyes for these baby world eaters. Lastly, for the base coats, I'm going to come in with some Bright Gold by Army Painter and do a few gold accents on the trim. I'm testing out currently putting green washes on gold metallics, and I think it looks pretty good. So I think I'm going to use this technique a little bit more in the future. All right, with all the base coats done, this is what we're looking like. Very quickly skimming over the highlights here, I'm just going to put a few across the screen. These are our highlight colors that we're going to be using. Now with the Evil Chrome, I'm just going to come in and do a couple little highlights here. I don't want to go too crazy with the highlights as these are going to be Grimdark style models. Let me show you guys a really fast and efficient way to do your edge highlighting. Once you try this method for edge highlighting, you're not going to use another one. Go ahead and take some paint and load your brush up with the paint with very little dilution, almost nothing. Then wipe off almost all of the paint on a paper towel. When you use this method for edge highlighting, you'll notice that you'll get these very consistent, clean edges every time. Now that the base coats are done, I went ahead and hit them all with a gloss varnish. And now let's come in with some enamels. I'm going to come in with a unifying wash of some streaking grime. Just go ahead and thin that down with a little bit of mineral spirits. And after you mix that up, go ahead and apply that all over the model. Go ahead and take your hair dryer and on medium heat for 30 seconds, go ahead and flash off all the mineral spirits to start the curing process of the enamels. After letting them sit for about 30 minutes, I came in with some Q-tips and we're gonna go ahead and use the reductive method. So I'm gonna come in and start to remove all the enamel off the raised areas. Sometimes more is less when removing enamels. It really depends on if you're doing like a unifying wash, maybe you wanna remove a little bit more. I think I removed a little bit too much on the front side. Let's continue on by putting some rust on here. I'm gonna start with this dark rust deposits from AK Interactive. Go ahead and thin this stuff down with a little bit of mineral spirits and apply it like so. Use a hair dryer, flash off the spirits. After about 30 minutes, we're going to come back in with some mineral spirits and go ahead and feather away those dark rust deposits. Next, we're going to come in with some dirty down products. I'm going to make a separate video about these products as each of them I've learned work a little bit differently. For the sake of time though, for this video, I'm going to go ahead and just focus on the rust. I find with the rust, it's okay to use thicker amounts of paint and you can kind of just glob it on areas that you want to look rusty. This stuff is water soluble, which means that you can feather it away with water and you don't have to use mineral spirits. These dirty down products are some of the best hobby cheating products that you can get, and I highly recommend them. On that note, they are still toxic even though they're water soluble and don't need mineral spirits. I would recommend still using proper ventilation when using this stuff, but I cannot recommend these products enough. Any place that's going to be naturally affected by rust, I'm going to go around the model and apply little spots here and there. You only need to wait a couple minutes for this stuff to dry, then you can come in with some water and start feathering away these rust spots. Rust really doesn't look like how it does when you apply it out of the bottle, which is why this step is necessary to achieve a realistic look. Alright, and to finish these models up, lastly, I'm going to come in with some blood for the blood god. In my opinion, this is the most realistic blood effect on the market. You can achieve some very easy paint splatter effects just like so. Take an old brush and a paper clip and flick away the paint just like that. You can also come in and manually apply it to bits that are going to have blood like the chain swords here. And here they are, brought back to life, ready to hit the table once again. There's something special about working on older models. Every chip in the paint, every thick coat of primer, every broken bit tells a story. Who knows how long these models have been sitting around, maybe in somebody's shoebox. I mean, these models have had a 30-year journey to get to where they're at today. If you've got some old, forgotten models sitting around in a box somewhere, maybe it's time to rescue them, strip the paint, patch them up, and give them the love that they deserve. These models have already been rehomed. I went ahead and shipped them out yesterday. I only made about 50 bucks on these models, so not a tremendous amount of money, but that's not the point of this program. The point of this is to get these old models back on the tabletop. All the money I make from the Foster program videos will go directly back into the channel. The next purchase is going to be for an ultrasonic cleaner, so we don't have to struggle this much again in the future. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Remember to like and subscribe. Please leave a comment down below on any recommendations for future videos. If you enjoyed this video, please go watch my most recent video on washes as I go over a few of the techniques shown here in further detail. And remember, for the Emperor or just for yourself. Keep painting. All right. See you guys on the next one.